Good morning, traders. Today is Friday, September 24th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. Okay, well, let's jump right into it here today. So what happened yesterday was we had another P-shaped profile where we got a big push higher, and then we spent the rest of the day rotating at higher prices, okay, which was the same thing that happened the day before. Overall, it was very bullish because we pulled the value area higher. We also pulled the value area back up into a previous balancing area, so that is bullish as well. However, the overnight market, whilst it tried to hold up that level down there, it broke and pulled lower. So we're going to open lower here today, still inside yesterday's range, so we'll still expect some chop. However, this does increase the odds that we might need to trade down towards the high from the 22nd, right here at about 44.07, looking for support there before we'll be ready to rotate higher. The reason being that when you create excess, this is all excess in here, and when you create excess, there's two ways to balance it off, right? You can either create the excess and then rotate at higher prices, and then you potentially break out above or break out below from there, or you can rotate up and then you have to pull back down with price, looking for support around where that excess began, and then you can push back up from there. Okay, so the high from 2 days ago, from the 22nd, is going to be my first focus to the downside. So if the market trades lower, does it find support in here? If it does, that would be a good long trade to the upside. And then I would look for resistance at the daily 50 simple moving average, okay, which is at about 24. Right now, that's the first potential resistance to the upside. If it's able to get through that, the next resistance is the bottom of that previous balancing area, which I'm calling right here. That's sort of, up to individual interpretation. You could pretty much think about it as being anywhere between that 50 and that 33.25 level right there. So resistance anywhere in here would be shortable for continuation lower. But if the market is able to get back up into this balancing area, so essentially get back up into the value area of yesterday, and then start finding some support in here, that is a good long trade for continuation to the opposite end of balance. Okay? When you push back up into a former balancing area, you often rotate to the opposite end very quickly. Obviously not necessarily on that exact day that you push up into it, but generally within the next day or two, you get to the opposite end of balance. So it would be reasonable to think if we can get back up into this area, get back above that like 34 level, we could get some serious continuation to the upside. We also left a poor high behind yesterday, which is in need of repair. And remember, poor highs have very high probability of being repaired. So that just really increases the odds. If we get back up into yesterday's value, we'll probably head up to, at the very least, repair that, if not get further upside continuation. But right now, we're just going to let the market chop around because we are opening inside the previous day's range. And like I said, we'll watch the high from 2 days ago and then that 50 SMA as potential support resistance as it bounces around. So I'll go ahead and mark that high from 2 days ago just so we see where it is. Internals are opening bearish, but that's to be expected with the pullback in the overnight. Good morning, Mangala. Good to see you. Our Kayleon in the house. Good morning to you. Cinny Matt, another donation. Brother, I appreciate you. I'm going to take my first sip of coffee right now. First sweet, sweet sip of that. Must have caffeine. Thank you. Appreciate you. Vincent, good morning to you. Bull Bear Rider, good morning. Amir, good to see you. Welcome. Sanju back with us. Good morning. Fausto in the house. Good to see you. Mangala, smash the like button. Thank you so much for the reminder. Got to get them likes going on this Friday. Get that algorithm going. Okay, so some people are buying the 50 SMA. That's slightly bullish, but I still think we need some chop here, so I wouldn't be jumping into a trade too quick. Design good morning, brother. Mangalan is bullish. Vito back with us. Good morning to you. Arthur is here. Good to see you. Philip, good morning to you. Fausto, 2 thumbs up. Winner, winner. Nicholas, good morning and happy Friday. TGIF. I am ready for a weekend. All right. So, first potential resistance. Push right through it. That 50 MA. And then it's acting as support, so we're getting our first bullish signals here in the market. Internals looking great. They're recovering. So remember, there's going to be resistance in between this area, basically, because of those previous lows from the previous balancing area. All of this in here. So there's not an exact level for resistance. But if we can get back above this level I've marked as the balance area low and then find support above there, that would be extremely bullish to go up and repair that poor high we left behind yesterday. Pavel, good morning to you. Bob, good morning. D is back with us. Good to see you. Noto Cactus, good morning to you. If that heart means you love me, I love you too. Henry, good morning. Rob, good morning to you. Jose in the house, good to see you. And AZ Chris is back with us. Hola. Oh, stop it. $35 likes, 85 people watching. Let's see if we can get those likes up. The market loves it when I get lots of likes first thing in the morning. It stays bullish after that. It's science. Oops. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Okay, running into our first little bit of resistance here. Lots of low volume nodes that need backfilling anyway, so it would make sense. We only got 130, 160 contracts here, 170 there. Those generally like to get backfilled. Looking for support in this node just above that 50 daily. Design knob. I think that heart is a medical thing. I'm not sure that might be bad. Are you trying to tell us that you're having a heart attack? Donkey's pissed. What's wrong, bro? Did you buy some puts? Well, there you go. If anybody needs rescuing, the knob's got you. Miles got long to ES. That'll be a great trade if we get above this previous balancing area. We get back into yesterday's value and we start to build some support. Be a great entry. Bummer. Well, you'll make it back. No worries. 2:30. Good morning to you. Welcome. So again, in a when what should happens, we should find some resistance here and then pull back down and backfill some of these low volume nodes. So if we don't, if we immediately push up through and then start building volume above, or building volume, like inside this balancing area, value area from yesterday, that would be even more bullish in a when what should happen doesn't. But the higher probability is that we need to come in here and backfill some of this. Knob's got some, Donkey's got some tissues in his purse. Looking good. Internals are building their way back up. So I'm going to take a bullish stance here. And pretty much as long as we stay above this 50 daily at this point, I'll stay bullish. But I would think that if we pull back down, this will start to act as support now for continuation higher. Like I said, once we get back into value, we're waiting for the pullback down to prove it, right? That support is absolutely necessary. You don't FOMO into it up here. You wait until it's confirmed by pulling back down to that area that was acting as resistance. But once it does that, that's, pretty strong confirmation they want to go repair that poor high. which of course is sitting up there at 44.55. We also just pulled the value area higher. It's overlapping to lower at this moment. But obviously, if we got up here to the poor high, we'd likely pull the whole thing up into value from yesterday. Tom, hello to you. Welcome. Design knob 4,700 by end of year. That's quite a guess. You could probably buy a call right now that's like super cheap. Did anybody see the headlines this morning that China's trying to ban Bitcoin again? They already did this before, and they're doing it again. First, they banned mining. They made that illegal. And it didn't make any difference at all in the end. And I have a feeling them making transactions illegal won't either. It may even hurt them in the long run if Bitcoin becomes a regular form of exchanging value on a bigger scale for businesses. But of course, the market will bleed for a few days here because of that news. Okay, I'm not loving the way the market is getting kind of pinned in these little random spots and not backfilling. That is less healthy. It would be better if it came down here. We only got 90 contracts here at 34.75. So the buyers really just need to relax for a second, let the market pull down, and then buy into support. But they're FOMOing in like an MFer. There we go. Doug, I don't agree with that at all. Bitcoin's a public ledger. The IRS will very, very quickly. As a matter of fact, I think there was just news like in the last week or two about, I think it was the IRS. One of the government agencies has hired Coinbase to help them develop a way of reading the public ledger so that they could enforce those tax laws. So I wouldn't get too excited on that one. Hanging around that 50 daily. Yeah, we got to back test it. That would make sense. Like I said, I'll stay bullish as long as we stay above that 50 daily. Yeah, Donkey, it's funny how governments think they can control crypto. Well, that's where this is why I said this morning in the Discord that like the war has begun. This is where, and obviously it's like way early with just this one thing from China, but like this will be where we as citizens of the world, not just of any one country, decide whether we're going to let our governments have as much power as they have over the monetary system. Because if people just keep using crypto, even if the regulations say not to, there's nothing the governments can do. But of course, we got to wait and see. The toughest thing will be miners and stuff like that, right? If they start making it illegal to mine crypto and, they start sending the FBI after you, people are going to be a lot more scared to do that. And then the infrastructure starts to die. So, but I still am bullish long term. It's good that you didn't FOMO in at 44.34. Yeah, somebody did, though. Somebody up there at 36 was desperate for it. Whoopsies. But this is healthy. We're back filling those low volume nodes, looking for support on that 50. If that starts to break, I'm back to neutral. Again, looking for support on the high from the 22nd. But my guess is buyers will step in here. Oh, maybe not. The internals really flipped on us. Donkey says looking like a rotational day. Yeah, I can get behind that. My opinion stays firm, though, that if we can get back up into the value area from yesterday and find support there, obviously we didn't this time. We failed and pulled back below. But if we can find support up here, that poor high is definitely in play. So I feel like if we were going to rotate, we'll rotate up in this range, up in here. David, no, not the current high. The high from yesterday. Oh, the current high is poor too. By Jim Dalton standards, it's one tick from the closing price of yesterday. So yeah, got a poor high there as well. But I was talking about the poor high from yesterday at 44.55. Good catch on that. Okay, so once again, now that we're back above it, we really want this node to act as support here. Ticks are struggling to get above that 0 line on the NYSE. Come on, buyers. You can do it. Powell speaks in 6 minutes? Say what? Oh, you're right. What for? It looks like on the recovery specifically from the pandemic. Jay, is that an automatic pop up? No, I'm just experimenting with the idea of I was thinking it would have been fun on Wednesday if I could have watched him speak with you guys and been able to like talk about it in real time. Okay, speaking of happening in real time, market's repairing its first little poor high here. Ba-boom. So I'm going to give it a try today. See what happens with that. Might be a disaster. Might cost me my $2 of monetization, but we'll just see. It's an experiment. All right. Well, obviously pulling back down into this node and finding support brought in some short covering here, but this will need to backfill. Something to keep in mind. Okay, we're now one time framing higher. We're pulling that value area higher. All of these things are bullish. Okay, the market's going to test its 20 moving average on the 15-minute candles there. There's often some bots that sell right there, so there should be some resistance. And that'll give the market a chance to pull back in and backfill some of this low volume in here. Well, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I can't. Okay.
And continued feedback and participation. Some of the issues you're confronting that we'll talk about today are shared across sectors, while others are unique to your fields. Most of you are contending with changed workplaces, from safety protocols whose half-lives are unclear, to fundamental shifts in how your industries operate, in everything from feeding people to how movies are released. Business plans have been reworked, outlooks have been revised, and the future continues to be tinged with uncertainty.
Can you guys hear it now?
Uncertainty often results in immobility for businesses. It can also spell opportunity. And the creativity and adaptability on display over the past 18 months have been among the few bright spots we've had. I've been amazed and inspired by the flexibility and ingenuity, particularly that of small businesses, in shifting to meet the demands of a new reality.
Okay, I'm going to go old school and just put my mic in front of the speakers.
The discussion today, you provide a wealth of information by sharing your experiences and those of your colleagues, customers, and communities. That has always been critical to how we conduct monetary policy, but means even more in extraordinary times such as these. So I want to thank you again for providing that insight, and I look forward very much to the conversation. Thanks.
So much, Chair Powell, for joining us and for that introduction. But before we begin our discussion today, I'd like to recognize and thank our Vice Chair, Rich Clarida, who spearheaded the Fed Listens initiative. He launched this series of listening events with the public, as the chair mentioned, as a part of our periodic examination of our monetary policy strategy, our tools, and communications practices that are used to pursue the Fed's congressionally mandated goals of maximum employment and price stability. Over the course of 2019, we hosted more than a dozen Fed Listens events across the country. We found them to be extremely valuable for hearing varied perspectives about the state of the economy, a particular sector, or a pressing economic issue. So valuable, in fact, that we've decided to continue the events over our framework review, after our framework review has concluded. And hearing directly from members of the public about their experience in the economy and their successes and challenges provides important context for understanding economic conditions that can't be obtained from economic data. Our Fed Listens participants help us see through those data from the eyes of the businesses, people, and communities that make up the American economy. That information helps to inform our decisions on policy. From today's event, we hope to gain a greater
on the question of is it a good time to go long? No, it's not. We're getting resistance from that 20 moving average, as I mentioned earlier. So I would wait for the market to pull back down and find some support in here. Remember, anytime you see these crazy low volume nodes, you just assume they need to be backfilled. So you got 67 there, you got 92 there. So I'd like to see the market, since it is getting resistance at that 20, I'd like to see it backfill a little bit of this first before I be confident going long once again.
With their questions as we go along. And I encourage our panelists, if they feel inclined, to respond to comments made by their fellow panelists. So we'll start with Lauren Nelewanski. Lauren Nelewanski began his career at Marriott more than 30 years ago, working as a manager trainee with the Courtyard by Marriott brand in Mesa, Arizona. After leadership roles in all departments at Courtyard, Lauren assumed positions both in the field and within the headquarters organization. He now oversees the franchising relationships for Marriott's select brands, which include Courtyard Hotels, Town Place Suites, Spring Hill Suites, and Fairfield.
What is my 20 SMA? So it's just a regular simple moving average, a 20 simple moving average. I use the SPX. You could also use the futures, but you just want to make sure you're only using regular trading hours. That's really pivotal. This moving average works like clockwork, but only if it's the regular trading hours. So that's why I use the SPX and the NDX, just to avoid that overnight trade.
Chair Powell and Governor Bowman, it's great to be here with you. Hey, I think people officially appreciate traveling, and there's no doubt in the last 18 months that so many had to sacrifice so much, and namely stay stuck in their homes and be quarantined for many reasons and just in a close-knit group that they're dying to get out and travel and see around the United States and get back to business. And for that, we're incredibly delighted.
Oh boy, I lost that guy.
It looks like Lauren may be having some issues with his connectivity. So, Rich, do you want to go ahead and move on to our next panelist?
Nope, gone again.
I'm sorry, were you not able to hear any of that, Nikki?
Oh, we did miss most of that. Do you want to start again? Oh, let's go ahead and move on, Rich, and we'll come back to Lauren. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Why don't we go ahead? I'll go after and try to get a little better connection. Thanks.
Thank you, Governor Bowman, and thank you for those acknowledgments. The Fed Listens has been a grand slam, and I'm very.
Isn't it fun to think that these are like some of the most powerful people out there and they can't even make their fucking Zoom work? Ridiculous.
Umar, who is incredibly accomplished. She is a chef and owner of the Garland Restaurant, an adjoining music venue, Kings, and a cocktail bar, Neptune's Parlor, in Raleigh, North Carolina. Chidi is a self-taught cook who studied recipes while pursuing a career as a guitarist in several rock bands, something that I appreciate quite a bit. She was a semifinalist in the James Beard Awards Best Chief Chef in the Southeast from 2017 to 2019. Very impressive. And was a finalist for the award in 2020. Chidi, to what extent has customers' dining activity returned to where it was before the COVID pandemic? What adjustments have you had to make to your restaurant's operations over the past year? And what have these adjustments meant for the people that you employ?
Thank you for that. Thanks for having me on. I don't know if our industry is ever really going to look like it did before the pandemic. We have been through so many big and small shifts over the last 19 months, from being completely shut down and sort of terrified and not sure if we were going to be able to keep our staff. We did have to lay off most of our folks, and then we, had a core group that we kept on payroll even when we were shut down for about 6 weeks. And then fortunately with programs like PPP and other small grants, we were able to take baby steps. And I think we just focused and continue to think of this entire time as building a series of small bridges to the other side, because we don't really know what lies on the other side.
Okay, guys, I'm just going to mute my mic for like a second and tell me if you can still hear the stream or if you were only hearing it through my microphone. So I'm going to mute now. Can you still hear the stream? Okay, cool. Cool. So I still got some tweaking I got to do here. Some experimenting to figure it out. All right, so this is that backfilling that we were looking for, right? We got that resistance on the 20 simple moving average, and the market had to pull back here. So now they should start to build up support for another push higher. And then, of course, if they can bust through that 20, that would be bullish. So now you're hearing nothing, right? Except for my voice, obviously, my smooth, silky voice. All right, can they start? This is where they need to find support. We don't want to pull back below yesterday's value. Man, these short-term traders get squeezed so quick. They go long in the wrong location, and then they instantly give up. And they never learn. Okay, so then let me just try cranking up the volume on that again to see, can you hear her and me now? So are you still just hearing me, or are you hearing them as well? Okay, cool. Yep.
Coming in with fear of COVID? Is it just what are you hearing from people as you try to hire?
Well, it's a combination of things. We were fortunate when we reopened.
Honestly, this doesn't seem like it's that interesting. It's like a conversation thing. So I'm going to bail on it. Bye-bye. Okay, so we're finding some support. Yeah, that tick was kind of scary, that big red tick, but they're still trending higher on the ticks. So certainly not bearish in any way. Unless they fail to get it back above the zero line. Oh, shit. Rocket hit another target on his short. Brother, you're shorting against the trend now. I mean, money is money. If you're making it, keep making it. But the probabilities that they push this market higher are pretty good here. If they can get those ticks back above the zero line and not break the uptrend. On the Russ. On the low caps. Let's take a look at the Q. The Q looks a bit weaker than the ES here. Yeah, so the NQ hasn't been able to push back up into yesterday's value. It's rotating around inside the excess, right? Inside those A period selling tail down there. So that is less bullish. But they are one time framing higher. but this looks a little more rotational to me. Got the bell-shaped curve as opposed to what we have on the ES, which are those random nodes building higher and higher. Choppy Friday? Could be. Could be. Yeah, weaker than the ES, but it's not weak. I mean, it's so again, what we talked about this morning is like there's two ways to balance off the excess, right? You create all this excess, you either rotate at higher prices, or sometimes you have to pull back down. So far, this still just feels like we're balancing off that excess from yesterday. If this started to trade below yesterday's low, right? That would be the cessation of one time framing, and would cause an engulfing B period. But if that were to happen, then it would get bearish down in here. But as long as it's staying above yesterday's low, it's really just absorbing that excess, that A period push higher that we had. And it is one time, man, it's getting messy. And it is one time framing higher. It just looks more rotational to me, whereas the ES looks more trendy. $10 minutes to printing the C period. We'll be able to watch that one time framing. If the C period pulls below the B period low, particularly if it gets below like the half back. Pulling below the B period low means rotation. Getting below the half back means we might need a larger pullback. So keeping an eye on that. No, David, it's kind of random, but with the candlesticks, I look at the 15-minute candlesticks, not the 30-minute. With the profile, I look at the 30-minute. But that's just more of like a personal preference. Before I ever even learned how to trade with the market profile, I kind of got used to trading with 15-minute candles. I just found that like the 30-minute were a little too boring. They didn't give me enough information. The 5-minute or the 10-minute was just too much information. It would cause a lot of like noise, a lot of unnecessary trades. So I just found I like the 15-minute candles. And so I just always stick with those when I'm looking at regular candlesticks. But I use the 30-minute on the market profile because that's what Jim Dalton has learned from his years and years of experimenting with all the different time frames. That's the one that he's found most effective for things like, weak and poor references. So the 15-minute might give you a lot more weak references or poor references that become noise, become unnecessary signals, whereas the 30-minute, they're much more reliable. Robert, if I had to choose either the volume profile or TPO, which would I choose? Please don't make me choose. I like looking at both of them. God, that's a tricky question. I mean, I don't really. If all I could look at was just the TPO charts with no volume, I don't know. I think I'd go with just volume. But they're the value of this tool is having both, right? It's being able to compare where the market spends the most time based on price levels, right? And then does the volume correspond with that? That's really where the magic lies, in being able to see how time and volume converge. If you were looking at just one or the other, you're like missing half the information. So please don't ever make me choose. Mediterra Fibs suggests we retest yesterday's high, as does the poor reference we left behind. Remember, every poor high ever created in the history of the market has been repaired. 100%. Doesn't have to happen the next day, but it always happens eventually. All right, so we're about to push back up and test that 20 moving average once again, looking for resistance there. So obviously, as I said before, if they can poke through, that would be bullish because it's likely to be support when they pull back down. Thank you, Arthur, for the reminder. We got 104 people watching, 65 likes. That is the reason the market is getting resistance here. Got to get some more likes in that thumbs up column. And then suddenly the market will break through to the upside. I'm just saying it's science. Okay, don't question it. Thank you guys for those likes. There you go. Noto Cactus wants a push higher. So, Charles, I don't understand. If the market's so bullish, why can't we push back up through that 20? What is all the resistance that we're dealing with in here? Well, look at yesterday and the overnight. We spent a lot of time in here. Okay, time regulates the market. So essentially the market was saying this is where we want to do business. So to change that, like it's going to take a big push. We have to really work through that in order to start doing business at higher prices. But as long as the other market generated signals are still bullish, right? As long as the ticks are still looking bullish, which they're kind of looking rotational here. As long as we're one time framing, As long as we got those other signals, we assume it's just going to take more time to get through this. But as soon as those signals start to change, as soon as the ticks start to trend down, as soon as we get the cessation of one time framing, then we know that this is going to be strong resistance and we're not ready to get through it. What happens when you can't get through strong resistance? You often have to pull down to lower prices to bring in more buyers to make another attempt. Eric, I think that's a great play. 8 points is a great play, man. And I think the idea of waiting till we get above this high, you could look at it as the nodes of volume here, right? You could also look at it as that 20 moving average on the 15-minute candles. Getting above that and then finding support, great long trade for continuation to the poor high from yesterday. Okay, so for those of you that are not in the Brigade room, don't want to pay a whole $10 to be able to keep hanging out all day, nothing wrong with that. Here's your level to watch. 44.33. Write it down on a piece of paper. Keep track of that. As long as the C period, as long as the next 30 minutes stays above that level, the market is still trending higher. But if it pulls below there, that's where things get bearish, because that means the market is ready to go rotational. If it's going to go rotational, it will need to rotate down looking for buyers. Okay, which it'll probably find at the 50 daily. Salmon River. Hey man, same as yesterday. Watch the ad to the end. Don't click on it. Support the pirate, not the people who are trying to trick you. All right, guys. Well, with that, I'm going to say sayonara. Happy Friday. Happy weekend. Hope you all enjoy yourselves. I shall be back here on Monday morning. And if you're a member of the Brigade, I'll see you over in the private stream. If you're not, there's a link in the description. Costs $10. Join the party. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.